Good evening from the allotment. I just thought I'd give you a quick update on how things are getting on. First things off is my red Brussels sprouts. Even though it's got what is now a double layer of enviromesh, the little pesky black flies have still been at them, so we've had to raise the stakes. If you get catch my drift, raising the stakes, and basically that means in the case of allotmenteering, making the enviromesh higher and further away from my precious sprouts. And these, of course, all planned to be ready for Christmas Day with Christmas dinner. And here we've got some red cabbages to go with the red Brussels sprouts, actually. These, of course, have a double layer on them. They again will have to have their stakes raised as well, so that's the next job. But as you can see, they've already got one or two friends, if you like, trying to get a nice little tasty bite of the action. Some of the smaller trees I've got on dwarf rootstock, like this pippin, seem to have done very well, and of course thanks to the advice given by people, we're going to have to thin these out. As you can see, there's big clusters of apples. These apples are becoming more commonplace, I find, at markets, and they are Bramleys. I've got some red Bramleys and ordinary green Bramleys that originate from not too far away, only 15 miles down the road, and they're characteristic in that they're not very uniform size, so originally supermarkets didn't stock them, but that's the beauty of them. They make beautiful cookies and beautiful pies, Bramleys. First time this tree's given us a crop of russet apples. It's one of those varieties that's slightly unusual and not often seen in the supermarket, so worth having a crack at growing if you're doing dwarf rootstocks with apples. When I do come down of an evening with Jane, we do pick the ripest of these, which are the tayberries, and you can see you're looking for this sort of coloration, so you get just enough, and they're always ripening on, so they've done very well despite the inclement and extreme weather this year. Summer fruiting raspberries, again, we pick them every day we come down as and when they're ready, and this lot here we've basically put stakes in. As you can see, got these from Wilko's, lots of stakes in, and basically just tied this twine around them, and just to hold them up really against the wind. As you can see, these stakes going around them. There's another one there, but again, giving them plenty of feed. I'm using a liquid feed on them, tomato food actually, but one with added magnesium and liquid seaweed. Blackcurrant seems to have gone crackers this year. There's plenty of it, but what's good about it is it's been a little bit later than last year. I'd say about 10 days later up here in the Midlands in the UK, so again, just picking as and when, and always on the breakfast cereal. Keeps you regular. As you can see, there's some more trestles of blackcurrant waiting to be picked. What a delight they are. The wildlife don't seem too keen on blackcurrants. Perhaps they think it's not edible. In between all the fruit trees, whether it's soft fruit or apples, pears, etc., I always have plenty of wildflowers on my plots. They do look a little bit unruly. They're not the neatest of things, but to have them there in between times is a good idea. And basically, they do grow extremely well in this clay soil, whether it's lavender or whatever, or lovage. On this dwarf rootstock you can see the June fruit drop, and this one's never cropped before. It was absolutely riddled with problems, and underneath each of the branches there was like a thick layer of sort of mildew. I don't know, it was like sort of cotton coloured mildew, and I just had to get to work on this one, and of course infested with ants, but I've tackled them all using the methods I've learnt and tried and tested myself, so this year finally come good. I'm of the opinion that dwarf rootstocks often have a rest year. They don't always crop. Red Hinamaki gooseberries seem to not all be ready at the same time, which is, I suppose, useful. And I get told off because I just pick the whole lot, but I get told that basically you should find the ones which are, softest first. But it seems to be that you get proper needled by their spines when you're picking them, so you don't half earn your gooseberry pie when you're picking it, I tell you. Even the very low branches of Hinamaki seem to be laden with gooseberries this year, but then that's probably down to the pruning program and spraying program that we've carried out, as we've shown on some of our early videos, and watching and learning from the good YouTube community we have here. We're very lucky, really. So on the to-do list for the next week or so, I'll have to get to work and get the rest of these red Hinamakis in, all ready to be pied or put into breakfast. They're lovely with porridge as well, or just eat them as they are. And surely you've earned them after all the lacerations you get. This year, for the first time, I've got a nice decent crop of these green gooseberries, perfect for making your gooseberry crumble. And this year's been a cracking one for red currants, as you can see on the trusses. These are a Dutch variety, and they're very reliable. And basically, despite the fact we had terrible weather and also fungal attack earlier on in the year, these have really come good. It's kind of like a sea of red, basically. The wood pigeons have found their way in the 1 weak spot, that's by the rhubarbs up there. If you can see those rhubarb leaves there, they land and then sneak their way in, despite the fact we've got all the nets around these. But you can't have everything, can you? You've got to feed the wildlife as well, and they're helping themselves around the allotment plots to cabbages and whatever they can get their beaks into this time of year. They've got all their babies to feed. These are just some of the red currants that I've picked earlier today as well. That currant seemed to be a little bit later this year where I am in the Midlands in the UK, so about a week later really, and just ripe enough now to be picking in early July, first week. And here are some of the summer fruiting raspberries, a Dutch variety. I've also got a native variety on the plot, but they're not quite ready at the moment. Well, only a few are. And here are the results for the gooseberries I've picked, and this is just one set of the crops. This has been the best year ever for these green gooseberries. Nice to see that these have come on this year and not just the red ones, despite all the heavy rain. Over the last few weeks, I've been picking some of the red gooseberries, Hinamaki, and I picked a lot more of various degrees of ripeness. I just picked the whole lot. I should have checked really to see whether they were, you know, the softer ones and picked them, but I've just been picking them as and when. So for all of you who like growing soft fruit, this is what we've managed to do this year so far, and I'll keep you updated about the plot and how the rest of it's getting on together with the fruit trees. Catch you later. Of course, once you've picked your gooseberries, and this is the first decent crop of green gooseberries we've had down in our allotment, you've got to make yourself a crumble, and this one is an ordinary crumble mix with the green gooseberries and some oats and almonds.